Zaffa Publishing presents The GI Bride, written by Eileen Ramsay and read by Lucy Brownhill. This audiobook is brought to you by Memory Lane, a special community for the very best saga writing from authors you know and love, and new ones we can't wait for you to meet. Join us today at memorylane.club. Chapter 1. May 1941. Sighing with tiredness, April made her way up from the ward where she'd been working. It had been a long, long day at St. Thomas's, and she'd spent most of her time running backwards and forwards with bedpans and changing dressings. So many, many dressings on so many poor people who had been injured. Still, despite her weariness, she was buoyed by the ward sister's words to her as she left. "Carry on the way you're going, Harvey, and by the time we're finished with you, you'll be able to run the hospital in an emergency single-handedly." She wasn't sure about that, but after 18 months of training, she felt she was finally becoming a proper nurse. And goodness knew, she was now an expert at setting broken bones and stitching cuts. She thought back to her first weeks in training. How different life was then. When she'd started, there had been no bombs, and though the country had just declared war, life had been carrying on much as normal. No one then had any idea of how truly awful war would be in London. "Got tomorrow off, love?" called Cyril, the hospital night watchman, startling her out of her gloomy thoughts as she passed him. She summoned a smile. "Now that would be lovely, Cyril. After a beautiful day like today, it looks like tomorrow might be a nice day for a picnic in the park. For those who have time to picnic." He laughed. "That's not you nor me, lass. I hardly remember parks and picnics. I used to love listening to the brass bands when I was a lad, though. This damned war, pardon my language, has spoiled the parks. Air raid shelters where roses used to bloom, I ask you." "There are still flowers, Cyril, and even duck ponds. And I read somewhere that some famous American bands plan to come. Hands Across the Sea or something like that. I'd best be off. I hate cycling in the dark, although there is a lovely moon tonight. See you tomorrow." "You take care, love. That moon is beautiful. But it's a bomber's moon, and make no mistake. Go as quickly as you can." April pushed open the main door and paused for a moment, taking in the glorious sight of the Houses of Parliament bathed in moonlight. But Cyril's words had sent a shiver down her spine. He was right. It was a bomber's moon, beautiful and full, and illuminating the streets in an ethereal silver glow. Her father would have noticed too, and he'd be standing at the window, anxiously awaiting her return. She knew he wouldn't budge until she was safe with him, even if the air raid siren went. Ever since her beloved mother had died when she was 8, it had just been the two of them, with no other family to call their own, and her father watched out for her safety almost too much. It had been a little suffocating when she was younger, but now, older and wiser at the grand old age of 20, she understood, because if anything happened to either of them, they'd be all alone in the world, and the thought completely terrified her. She hurried around to the bicycle stand. Only 3 were there. Many nurses came in on special buses, but as she only lived a few miles away in Camberwell, she could cycle to the hospital easily. Still, even a couple of miles can seem like a very long way when your legs were as tired as hers, she thought grimly. As she wheeled her bike to the gate, she looked up into the night sky, not looking for twinkling stars, but for enemy aircraft. A perfect May night, dark blue sky, stars flung generously against the darkness, and that beautiful moon. There were, of course, no streetlights, but at least tonight she'd be able to see well enough. But so would the Germans. Hopefully they'd stay away for once. She crossed her fingers and set off. Out of the gate she went, onto Walworth Road, heading for her.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?